What does it mean to be dominant? I've played at the highest level. I've received the highest award.
Thank you.
But those things did not make me dominant. On this show, I want to interview people from various backgrounds and careers to see what made them dominant. That's why I decided to partner up with Mission Winnow. Together, we want to promote progress and achievement while sharing real stories of struggle and success. We want to acknowledge the challenges in front of us, but we also want to pivot towards improvement and positivity.
Everything is going to work out.
We are the dominant ones. We dunk on the world. We don't let the world dunk on us.
Beer battered shrimps. I really like these.
There you
I think
go.
they're delicious. I feel like this, you can get this at Red Lobster.
Hat on top cause we think excellent. Frames on straight cause I see excellent. Dress for success cause I be excellent. Everything we do, everything we do.
Hey guys, how you doing?
What up?
Good.
How you doing? Good to see you. Brandi, thanks for having me here in your home.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you. I had a chance to sit and cook with you for a second,
Yeah,
having a
you're
real
good.
taste of brandy. Yeah, I'm pretty decent. I really enjoyed that. You're a very good cook, by the way, and I stole that recipe,
It's
and I'm
yours.
using later this
All
week.
yours.
So I appreciate it. But again, yeah, thank you for having us here. We really appreciate it. How we want to get started here? You know the show is called The Dominant Ones, and I like to start off by asking my guests is, how did this start for you? I know it wasn't wrestling, even though that was your passion.
Right.
But tell us the first introduction into professional
Sure.
wrestling.
So I grew up in Michigan, and I knew for as long as I could remember that I never wanted to live in Michigan. I felt like I was born in the wrong place. I always felt like I was a Floridian. I needed to be out of the cold. And so when I graduated from Michigan, I finally said, okay, that's it. I'm moving to Miami, just random. All my friends and family were like, you're nuts. You're crazy. What are you trying to do? I said, I want to be an entertainer. That's what I am. I want to make a real run at it. I was scared of Los Angeles, so I went to Miami.
That's a fishbowl there.
Yeah, it's a little bit easier to like kind of penetrate that market a little bit. So I went there and then I pursued modeling because I was not confident in really anything else. I was like, I feel like the modeling thing I can do. While I was there, randomly was contacted by WWE, and back then, which dates me, they were finding models to become professional female wrestlers. The way that they would plug it was we wanted to find, attractive women who were athletic. Well, I have a figure skating background, so it was a good fit. So I got into wrestling probably about 2012, and I just came to train to get myself to a place where I could wrestle on television, and that was in Tampa. So I had moved from Miami to Tampa. Was training under people like Norman Smiley and Dusty Rhodes, who ended up becoming my father-in-law, and really just getting like my feet wet, getting a taste of what it's like to wrestle. It's very difficult. There's a lot of painful days, a lot of bumps and bruises, but I really, really enjoyed it. I'd missed figure skating, that entertainment, so this was kind of like a supplement for me.
And it seemed like that would be very difficult for a woman to kind of master, and especially, picking people up in the air, throwing them down, the different techniques that you guys do on television. It seems like it's so hard. But you guys make it easy because it's the training that you guys put in. You guys are always training to kind of hone in on your skill. And those techniques that seem so difficult. Your husband just showed me one a few minutes ago. I'm still trying to figure out how he did that, but it was cool.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's been wrestling since he was in high school. So it's a different style of wrestling, but it's a really good basis. Whereas you'll find a lot of like fantastic professional wrestlers have the amateur wrestling background. But I don't have that. So it's harder for me. But there are some things that translate from just being an athlete. Like you'll see a lot of people who come from football or basketball or whatever. They just have the discipline from committing to something. No matter how hard, if you commit, you're going to get better. And that's kind of been my journey in the ring. I was not good when I started at all. But, you know, I've just kept at it and I've kept learning, and I've never given up on the idea that if I keep trying, it's obviously going to get better.
Yeah, but the thing we were talking about earlier, and you said before you had a really big wrestling debut, you were doing television. They asked you to do television because you're the only one that really had a voice. And so they fell in love with that. So tell us about that.
Yeah, so I went to school for broadcast journalism. So my background's in TV news. So I've been a reporter on the scenes live. I've been in studio live as an anchor. That doesn't bother me. You know, trusting me to talk live doesn't bother me. So the first time they asked, when I was in the developmental system, it was called FCW at the time, they were kind of panicked. They didn't have a ring announcer, and they said, like, oh, man, who's going to do this? Who's going to do this? And I said, well, what is it that you need me to do? They said, well, we need you to stand in the ring and just talk, you know, and tell them who's coming to the ring and make it exciting. And I said, in front of, like, these, like, 50 people? That's easy. Like, that's easy. I usually do live TV. This is fine. They didn't even know. They didn't even know I had that background. So I was like, yeah, sure, no problem. Went out, did it. It was fine. Next week I got called and they said, hey, we need a ring announcer for SmackDown. I said, well, yeah, bring me in. I'll make more money. I'll get on TV. That's fine. Yeah. And I did it with the idea that if you make yourself useful, eventually you're going to get to do what you really want to do. Just let them know that, hey, I'm a team player. I'm willing to do this. I'm willing to do that. I'm handy here. I'm handy there. I'm also good at this, though. This is what I really want to do. Just never panned out, though.
They knew you were good at something else at that time, and that was TV. But we had an interesting conversation again a little while ago that you had to make a decision about the career you was most passionate about. So when they didn't give you a shot, what did you do?
Well, it's not what I recommend for people to do all the time, but I left. I said, well, hey, I've laid it all out here. This is what I want to do. This is where I think I'm valuable. This is what's in my heart. And they said, well, no. So I said, okay, well, thank you for your time. And that's really scary when you're making a comfortable salary and you have a mortgage and you know, like my husband and I and our dogs, that's our family, but that's our family we have to take care of. So it was scary, but I knew that if I didn't do that and I stayed in that position, never knowing what I could possibly do, I would always regret it. So I'm glad I did it.
Well, you know, usually when you do something like that, you have a lot of confidence in yourself because you know it's going to work out sooner or later. So it's like stepping out there on faith, but more importantly, you know what's your passion, you know what your destiny is. And look what happened. You end up becoming a professional wrestler for the last 3 years, and it's worked out pretty well.
Yeah. It's definitely not been an easy road these last few years, but especially with the coming of AEW and everything that I'm getting to do in the business, it's I definitely didn't see all of this coming, but I'm glad that I stepped out on faith because it wouldn't have been able to happen if I didn't.
So going back to that little young girl, what would you go back and tell her?
Ooh, so the little young girl didn't know what she wanted to be. She just knew that she wanted to be an entertainer, and she just knew that she had gifts, and she just wanted to display her gifts. I would tell her to not try to force things. I have a kind of a habit of when I get something in my mind, I want to force it to happen. But really, whatever's going to happen is going to happen. Yeah. You just work hard, and you're ready for whatever happens. And then that's what I was doing throughout my life, and I didn't know that was what I was doing. So even when I was figure skating, I was always working really hard, even though I knew in the back of my mind, hey, probably not going to be an Olympian. So what are we going to do after, after we really realized we're not going to be an Olympian? What's next? And I was always very, tense about that and worried. And throughout all of my schooling, it was always, you have to have straight A's. Well, what does that get you? Where do you go after that? What if you get all these straight A's and you don't become what you think you're going to become? Does that mean you fail? You're going to take that, you know? So I think it's just, you know, keep working hard, but let that be the preparation. Don't worry so much about, you know, what the full life plan is. I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow.
Right.
36, who knows? You know?
You know, the great thing about, you know, what you've done in your career is that you've developed that dominant attitude. And it's not always about the end goal. It's about the struggle that you went through, and you defied all those odds. And even the negativity that from friends, family who thought you were crazy to even be doing this, and now they can look back on it like, you know what, she was right the whole time. She believed in something, and she went out and she did it. And so that's something you can be proud of, that we can be proud of as individuals, because, you know, you go through a lot to reach this point in life. So tell us about AEW.
AEW is a crazy labor of love that came together in a really short period of time. But what it is it's the #1 competitor in today's wrestling industry. In 20 years, there hasn't been any competition in wrestling. There's just been one brand of wrestling, one style, and that's what everyone's had to consume because that's what's been readily available. Now AEW wrestling comes to TNT starting October 2nd. We'll be on TV every single Wednesday from 8 to 10 prime time. Great spot. And we're bringing what we believe is the best wrestling in the world. Bell-to-bell action, less campy stories, more about the people, their real lives, and their insane athletic abilities in the ring.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. You guys have started a pretty unique business, your husband and yourself. So it's good luck with that. I hope it really takes off. And from what you guys are already doing, we can see the progress. So I think it's going to do very well. So you're still a professional wrestler. So what's next for you? Where do you see yourself in the next 5 or 6 years?
The next 5 to 6 years, I allow myself to be very open-minded to. We've exceeded our expectations for this year, so that, of course, makes me dream really big for the future.
Right.
But I'm the chief brand officer for AEW. I'm formulating what our brand looks like. Our pillars are, diversity and inclusiveness, and like we know from working together with Culture City, we've been the first wrestling association to be able to do things like that, be sensory inclusive, and I'm just really banking on continuing with that as our pillar, being inclusive, being diversive, making sure that everybody who wants to be a part of wrestling or ever had any heart for wrestling, that they feel included, that they feel like they can be a part of our community, because we're a family at AEW. We view our fan base as family. We don't view them as a nuisance. We don't view them as people who just take what they get. They're part of this, so they should get what they want. And these few little things that we've done have been able to show that, and we want to just continue moving in that direction and just growing as much as we can. I mean, we start with this 2-hour slot on this major network, and that's amazing. Where can we go from there? Where else can we, penetrate entertainment and bring more people into the fold of wrestling? Because like you said, it's a resurgence right now.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's coming back strong, and to have a company like you and Cody have together is going to help that resurgence. So, I think it's going to be a successful business, successful company, and I wish you the best with it. You guys have done a wonderful job of really thinking this whole thing through and coming up with this new and fresh format. So I think you guys do well, and you got a lot of supporters that believe in what you guys are trying to do.
Here we go. And here's a spoon if you want to scoop out a little of that sauce. Let's give ourselves a pre-chug. So we'll give ourselves a light chug, and then we'll do the big chug. Okay. Okay. Whew.
Wow,
Really good.
that's good.
I mean, it fell apart, but
Really good. You under something?
I like them. I like them.
It's very good.
I can taste that little bit of garlic. All right, bottoms up here. Okay.
Here we go. So you have this show, A Shot of Brandi. So when I first heard about it, I thought it was just just a new name brand show that they came up with, but I didn't realize, I don't know what I was thinking about. Oh, she's Brandi. Okay, I get it now. Okay, a shot of Brandi. And we just did some cooking upstairs, and you showed me a couple of new recipes with my beer.
Yeah.
Really blew me away. It's really good beer battered shrimp.
Yeah, man.
And so I got those recipes in my head. So how did you come with that recipe? Is something you saw and you kind of took for yourself?
So a lot of times with the show, the theme is that everything on the show is alcohol infused in some way. Mm-hmm. So we cook with whatever alcohol we're using. We make a cocktail. In the case of beer, it already is a cocktail, so we didn't have to make anything special. Right. But your beer obviously is very special. So once I heard that, you had a beer and, you had your grand opening and everything, it's like, yeah, we need to cook with that. So, I mean, beer battering everything, it's a pretty American thing, right?
Yeah, it's pretty easy.
Yeah. Yeah, and I actually have never battered anything and fried anything like that. So I was like, this is the time we're going to try it. With my show, none of the recipes, I guess they're all original, but they're not just thought up by me. What I do is I research the alcohol and see, what are common things that I can do with it, how can I use it, and then I just kind of just play around the internet and see what other people have done, and then kind of just put my little spin on it.
I tell you, I tasted that little citrusy type of taste in the batter. It was really, really good. And the amazing thing about it, it cooks very quick.
Yes.
I mean, literally minutes.
Yeah.
And
Frying I think I told you earlier, I had a fryer for a really long time. Never used it. It was like 5 years. Never used my fryer. Then I threw it away, and then I decided I wanted to fry stuff. So now we did, we used the copper pan, and we made it work.
You're a pretty good cook, but you do a lot of improvising when you're in the kitchen. And I think that's the best way to cook. I mean, I rarely use timers, measurements, because I kind of know what I want and how I want to cook it, because I cook all the time. So it makes it more fun.
Yeah.
And I thought we had really a lot of fun doing it the way we did it. With the testing the grease with the water and that sort of
that was something
that's my
new
timer.
I learned from you.
Yeah,
That's amazing. That's why it's so great to have different guests on the show, because you learn something different every single time. Like, I'm not by any means an expert chef, cook, anything. I'm just having fun. So anything I can learn from anybody else, that just makes me this much closer to being
it's really cool.
Slightly professional.
It's really cool learning different things from different people. I learned how to cook brisket from one person. I learned how to cook lamb chops from somebody else. So I take bits and pieces of that information and I turn it into my own and add some of my own spices and own flavors to different foods. So it's good to cook that way and then everything being by the book.
Exactly.
So
Where's
that
the
was
fun
cool.
in that?
There's
No
fun
character.
In that. We don't get to chug in and none of that stuff if we
Right.
do it that way. So I appreciate that. You and I are on a wonderful board together called Culture City. A guy named Julian Maha has really put together a wonderful system on helping kids with autism. Sensory rooms all over the United States. So
Even
it
in
is,
different countries
Yeah,
now.
different countries. And this is very near and dear to our hearts because we know somebody or have people in our family who deals with autism. And what really sold you on Culture City?
Oh man, the first time I talked to Julian, because we're a big startup, but we are a startup at AEW, and so there's a lot of people who are excited about it and want to chat and have ideas. I kind of make it my mission to talk to all of these people, whether I can help them or not. At least, if I can't right now, maybe in the future I can. Julian got in touch very early in the situation. He's a big wrestling fan, so he didn't really say a whole lot, but he said, I have this idea I want to run by you, and I'll come to your house. So I said, okay, great. He sounds like a solid individual.
Right.
And he came over and he said, really love what you're doing with AEW and how you guys, your motto kind of is that AEW is for everyone. And I said, yeah, I came up with that. That's all me. And he said, you're not though. And I was kind of like, how so? What do you mean? And he said, well, you're forgetting a huge demographic, and that's people who have sensory issues. As soon as he said that, I was like, how did I not know this? Like, I should be very aware that this is a problem, because in wrestling, it's a huge problem. I've been a part of many companies, and pretty much all of the top companies in wrestling I've had the pleasure of working for at some point in time. And one big thing with wrestling is, we have a lot of meet and greets where we get to meet, fans and families and just kind of have a personal relationship with our fan base. And I've been at a lot of meet and greets where someone had a sensory issue and it wasn't handled, and it's embarrassing for us. But no one knew what to do.
And it's embarrassing for the family as well, because they deal with this every day. But I have a daughter who deals with the same type of issues, that she won't go to games because she can't take that loud noise. So she has to go in a room where she's comfortable. It's kind of her own space.
Yeah, exactly. And so finding out that there is an alternative for this other than just not addressing it. As soon as he said that, I said, what do I have to do? Because I've seen this so many times, and I've been on the end of saying, hey, can somebody help? What's happening? Like, can somebody help here or what? Are we all just going to look, or is somebody going to actually help? Does someone know what to do? No one ever knew. So I said, hey, if you can equip my people so that we know what to do, we're going to win this battle. Because
you have a lot of people at Culture City who are trained to handle those situations. And like you said, a lot of people don't know what to do under those circumstances. Right. So what do? A lot of people times they just stand there looking at someone else to solve the problem.
Yeah.
But what Culture City does, they put these rooms in place where all these kids are comfortable. Yeah. And the families are comfortable. They know they can go and leave that kid in those rooms, and they're going to be taken care of. They're going to be in a great environment, and they can enjoy the game.
Right, yeah. And another important thing is that in the wrestling fan base, there are a lot of adults that suffer from a lot of these illnesses. So I've been, talking to adults recently who've been like, I never thought I would be at a wrestling show live. And I went to the first one ever, and I was so excited, and it was so much fun. And it's just, these stories have to keep happening. We can't end it here.
So tell us, what is your definition of dominance?
Oof. I think dominance for me is it's a singular thing. It's not so much dominance over other people.
Exactly.
It's more of having the personality of not quitting and owning your life, owning whatever your story is, what you want your story to play out as. I think I'm dominant in that I wanted to succeed in wrestling. I wanted to grow wrestling. I wanted to help minorities in wrestling, and we're there. We're continuing. It's not an overnight process. I think one thing, if I could ever say anything to like our fan base, is that it's got to be a growth thing, because if you do everything right at 0, you have nowhere to go. You have nowhere to grow to. You have nothing to aspire to. Right. So it is a process. But, the things that we set out to do here in being diverse and inclusive and just for everyone at AEW, that's what we're doing. Right. That's, if you don't see everything right now, don't worry, because I eat, breathe, sleep every day thinking about these things and how we can do better and how much more we can do, and always thinking about future talent and people who belong with us. And it's just, things take time.
Yeah. It really does. And we couldn't be more happier, to have a person like yourself around. And you just became my first favorite female wrestler.
Yeah!
Favorite wrestler, period. But Brandi, thanks again for having me in your home. And it's been great. Great place, by the way. We need to do more episodes out here.
Absolutely.
So thank you.
Thank
and
you.
That's what dominance is all about.